ages 2 to 5, we know that's over-exclusive. And we kind of seen when kids came up and they wanted to hit for a couple times, they'd hit like 3 or 4 times, and either they would straight like drop the bat and like run away to the next activity, or they would just get really over it. And it seemed like no matter how much we did, we couldn't go back and get them to come back and hit some more because they were done. But age 3, overall, we kind of saw they followed direction more. They enjoyed the game part of it. They shared a lot better. So they would go and hit, try and hit a goal, like can you hit that rock? Can you hit further than the person who went ahead of you? And then after they were done, it's like, okay, can you let so-and-so have a turn? And they did like, sure. So that was pretty good. They also had more of the determination to better themselves, which is, more than what we saw in the 4-year-olds. They were a little more stubborn. They like to control the situation. Back to Gabriella, I think there was a time at the first day where we were like, okay, well, let's try and like swing through with your hips more, use your hands, and she literally put down the mat and just was like, guys, you know what I'm doing. We were like, okay. So she was very sure of herself. And we saw that a lot more with other 4-year-olds that just didn't have them pictured in our presentation, but that was definitely a trend that we saw. They didn't really care so much about the prizes. They were kind of there to just kind of show off, show the best that they could be. And then, yeah, they had a hard time participating, staying interested. So, yeah, that was kind of the age group difference. But overall, everybody did really well.
So going to gender differences, obviously it's striking in baseball. Boys were immediately drawn towards our area, and so they would come up, they'd be like, oh, I want to try, and so they were very, very interested in striking. Absolutely, most of them had experience with sports. There were a few girls that had a little bit of experience. Like Gabriella was, she started at elementary stage, went to mature. She was very, very good with that kind of stuff. The boys were also a lot better with listening to direction. The girls were like, oh, I want to do what I want to do. But the boys did very, very well with following direction. And they really liked to play with friends. So if they saw, one of their friends coming up and striking, and they were like, oh, I want to do that too. So it was kind of like a group thing. The girls really liked to control the situation. Like I said, Gabriella really just kind of wanted to do her own thing. Same thing with May. She didn't really like to follow the directions so much as she just wanted to hit it. And the girls actually really liked to compete against the boys. They were like, oh, I bet I can hit it farther than they can, which was really, really awesome. And they made it kind of like a game, which is really good for them. And they really liked the incentives. May especially, the only reason why we got her over there is because she really wanted one of those masks. And she ended up having a lot of fun with it. So I thought that was really, really good as well. So going to previous experience, like I said, most of the kids had previous experience with, hitting the ball, some kind of area. Grant, Sawyer, and Gabriella were three that you could tell that they had some sort of experience. And I'm sure you saw that in the video. They started in elementary phase, they went to the mature stage. They had experience with sports, with listening to direction. The kids that did not, or that were not involved in sports earlier, they didn't really get that direction. Just because they weren't used to it, they kind of wanted, again, to do what they wanted to do. And they were frustrated and they just kind of wanted to take control. And that also kind of goes into the fact that our kids that we got learned better with like part by part learning other than like mass learning. And you could see that with Dr. Anderson, who was showing them part by part instead of being like, okay, this is exactly how you hit the ball. They really learned the mass to specific trend of learning for sure. And sometimes if the parts were mastered in practice, they didn't always carry it to their actual striking, but you could still see that motor program starting to develop.
So, out of all of them, I would say probably Sawyer and confidence in what they do. Because you can tell the kids who have done it before, on the back, play sports like this, had an idea or at least not an idea what they were doing. But what was consistent was that all of them, their confidence continued to build as they were striking and as they got the reaction from us saying, good job, that was great, and when they got the prize and stuff. So yeah.
So, looking at the kids, we saw kind of like a positive correlation between three different things. The more motor progress they had, the more confidence they had, and then the more they wanted to stick around and keep playing. So that was kind of our experience with the kiddos. If they had a good time, they were going to stay around and keep working with us. But if they felt like they weren't doing a good job, they would move on to the next thing. And then personally, for us, it was both fun and frustrating to work with them and try and teach them. It's a little more frustrating, I think, than we thought. It took a little bit longer for us to get our message through. You can see that in the videos, when we said like bend your legs, they'd squat down or feet apart, they'd like sumo squat or like starfish and try and hit the ball. And didn't really work out very well. But I mean, how can you get mad at the kids? So I mean, it was frustrating, but it was still a really fun experience for us. And then we all kind of have to remember that we were all there once. So, if somebody had to teach us that, whether it was a coach, whether it was a family member, you could see that different kids had different levels of being experienced. So that was something that we kind of had to take. It was a very eye-opening experience to work with different kids with different levels of that experience. But so we're all very, very fun. Next time, I think we have unique prizes to offer them. On the last day, we brought masks. And that was the day that we probably had most participation out of any day, because we had stickers the first 2 days, and we would just get kids like head to toe covered in stickers, like they were in their hair, like everything. And so when we offered them more stickers, they were jumping and didn't really want to work with us. So yeah, trying to get different things, to bring them in. Gender-specific recruiting, on the first slide you guys saw, we had 14 people overall. We had 4 girls and 2 boys. I think what we should do next time is go out specifically, kind of keep running tally. The first day we had this many girls, this many boys. Let's try and get 5 more girls this time. Going into the next day, just to have like a more balanced ratio of girls to boys at the end. And then I think we're going to work more towards making it a game. We figured that out on the second and third day, but I thought it would be really interesting if we had more of a constructed game going into it, and then seeing them progress in the actual game. I think it would have been a little more enticing to them as well.
So yeah, that was basically our experience with the kids. Here's just some funny photos and some quotes. I personally like the top quote: "Raising kids is part joy and part guerrilla warfare." I don't have any experience, but I can only imagine. These last pictures here at the bottom are good to see because they all really showed an increase in enthusiasm and self-confidence toward the end, especially from the first day to the last day, and just really seeing their expressions and how happy they got at not only receiving a prize, but once they could like hit the ball and go far, and they did it several times, they really got excited, and just seeing the faces and their smiles was good. Overall, we had a great experience. It's one thing to talk about this in class and read it from a book, but it was a good experience to go up there and be able to do hands-on and really see what works, what doesn't, how difficult it can really be to teach a motor program. And it's amazing to see, like Grant, how some kids are just naturally born with it, or how much they've been practicing, or just how gifted they are in sports. And it's cool to see all these different ranges.